You know, it's funny. We're all kind of obsessed with one number, our age. It defines our milestones, our expectations, even our sense of self-worth. But what if we've been counting the wrong thing all along? Today, we're going to explore a pretty radical idea that might just change how you see your own life. I mean, really think about it for a second. We just automatically assume that more time equals a better life, right? That hitting 80, 90, or even 100 is the ultimate goal. In a world that's all about maximizing everything, a long lifespan feels like the biggest prize. But is it really? From our very first birthday, this is the metric we use. It's how we measure progress, how we mark those big moments, and ultimately, how we judge the entire span of a person's existence. It's simple, it's linear, and it's what we know. But what if this whole system of counting, this chronological bookkeeping, totally misses the point? This is where our little journey here gets really fascinating.
So you've got these two ways of looking at it. On one side, there's the common belief. Life is just the time that passes, simple. But on the other side, there's a much deeper view that a life should really be measured by the growth of our mind, our intellect, and our soul.
And you know, this isn't some new age idea. We're actually going back centuries for this, to an influential Persian philosopher named Mulla Sadra. He proposed a revolutionary way to think about our time on Earth. And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head. He's basically telling us, hey, stop looking at the calendar and start looking inside yourself. The real substance of life isn't about duration, it's about development. Mulla Sadra had a name for this concept. He called it Hayat, معقول, which translates to an intelligible or rational life. So it's a life that's defined by quality, not quantity. It's about understanding, not just, existing. And this is where it gets really mind-bending, because this idea creates this fascinating paradox, one that totally flips our whole idea of age on its head. To really get it, let's look at two very different lives. Okay, let's start with this number, 80. 80 years. That's a long life by anyone's standards, right?
When you hear 80-year-old man, you probably picture someone full of wisdom, someone who's seen and done so much over 8 decades.
But what happens if we apply Mulla Sadra's metric? If we measure his life not in years, but in intellectual growth, what's his real age then? Get this, his true age might only be 3. Yeah, it's a shocking thought, isn't it? But according to this philosophy, if those 80 years were spent without real curiosity, without asking questions, without actually growing the mind and soul, then sure, chronologically he's old, but intellectually, he's barely even begun to live. Okay, so now let's flip that on its head and look at the opposite scenario. This is where the concept gets really powerful. Let's consider a much younger person, 30 years old. Now, by society's standards, you'd say their life is just getting started, so much ahead of them. But if those 30 years were absolutely packed with intense learning, deep reflection, and profound intellectual expansion, well, then they've lived a far richer, fuller, and in this sense, a longer life than the 80-year-old. It's like they've managed to pack 70 years of inner growth into just 30 calendar years. So this really gets to the heart of the paradox. Without that intellectual maturity, an 85-year-old can be like a child, a 90-year-old like an infant. You could own the entire world, but it would mean absolutely nothing if your mind hasn't grown along the way. So when you strip everything else away, what are we left with? What's the one big takeaway we should hold on to from this whole philosophy? It's this: the true measure of your life is the level of your thought. That's it. Your real life, your Hayat معقول, is defined by the depth and quality of your consciousness. The calendar's gonna keep ticking for everybody, but the life of the mind? Well, that's something each of us has to actively build for ourselves. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Just forget the date on your birth certificate for a moment. If you measure your life by the growth of your mind and your soul, how old are you really?